This is the MicroClimate Air3. It is the long-awaited successor to the Air2, which is a powered air purifying respirator for consumers. But this is industrial level. This is NIOSH approved now. It has HE rated filters that are 99.97% filtration efficiency on both sides. It has Z87 plus rated lens for impact protection. This is an actual industrial respirator that consumers can also use. Now, well, one of the things about upgrading it to NIOSH levels is it now comes with a NIOSH level price, which is a little bit of sticker shock to anyone who has purchased one of these in the past. But we'll get into that later. First, why would you wear this instead of just a regular mask? Now, I review a lot of masks, and one of the issues I run into is that I can tell people that these filters work great, and this fits me great, but it has to fit me well to work well, because this is a negative pressure respirator. You draw air in with your lungs, you suck it in, and if it seals well, all the air goes through the filters. That's great, but if it doesn't seal well, some of the unfiltered air goes in underneath the seal. And I don't know how well this is going to fit you, because everyone's fit is individual, faces vary a lot in size. So I can't recommend a mask completely in a way that applies to everyone, because these come in different sizes and different shapes. But I can recommend a powered air purifying respirator to everyone, because this is a loose fitting respirator. It has just a slightly snug seal. It doesn't have to fit perfectly. The fan blows air in and creates positive pressure inside the unit that constantly blows outward. And that helps prevent ingress of unfiltered air into it. So with this unit, this shroud goes around your head and it seals at the neck. That means it can accommodate facial hair, even full beards, big bushy beards that other respirators just can't. So this is something that is going to be a solution for people who otherwise can't get good seals. I can tell you that as long as this fits on top of your head well with the adjustable harness that's in here, a little hard to see, all right, maybe impossible to see. We'll look at that later. It's basically a hard hat style harness inside. And if that fits you, if you can wear this, you're going to get good protection from it no matter what size you are. That is how good a powered air purifying respirator can be in the loose fitting type. I can just generally recommend it. Now, there are some reasons why you might not be able to wear this. One is the weight. This weighs about as much as this blacksmith's hammer. It's 1.6 kilograms. This is 1.5 kilograms. One of the things they've tried to do to make this easier to wear is they've moved some of the weight down. So that doesn't make it lighter, but it does make it a bit less strain on your neck. For instance, if you were to put all this weight on top of your head and you tilt it over when you're bending over to work on something, there's a lot of leverage there, a lot of stress. But if you can put the weight lower, you can bend over without much stress at all. So the engineering that allowed them to move that center of gravity down is really helpful. Even if they didn't necessarily make it super light, that is a good feature to have. This is one of the most common industrial powered air purifying respirators, the 3M TR300. I've got the hard top here, the M200. So this gives me also impact rated protection. It's the same level of protection. Couple of differences here. One, this only weighs about 1 kilogram, even with the weight of the hose and these earmuffs on. So less weight on your head than this. They put the weight of the battery in the blower and the filter at your waist, but you also have to juggle all these pieces here. Your ears are on the outside, so you can hear better, but you still have your mouth inside here behind impact protection. So other people hearing you is probably going to be similar. We'll try that out in a little bit. Now, as far as durability is concerned, these have a proven track record. And this, because there are no electronics in it, if you get this wet, it's going to be fine. This does have electronics in it. So there are some trade-offs by having a single, an all-in-one unit versus having the blower separately. But pricing, this is pretty expensive. Although you can buy units with a soft top for huge discounts at $500 for the soft top, that's not the list price. The list price is more than this, especially when you add the price of this hardtop. The hardtop is expensive. Also adding these optional earmuffs. Now, speaking of earmuffs, with this unit here, your ears go on the inside, so you'll have to use earplugs, and you won't be able to take them on or off once you put this on. You know, AirPods are not noise-rated hearing protection as far as I know, so you might have to get something like these guys, which are rated noise-isolating earbuds. Another thing these two units have in common is that they are particulate only. So if you need to filter VOCs, if you're doing automotive painting, they are not going to work for you. You're going to need to pay more money and get a different grade of powered air purifying respirator. And that can be important for woodworking too, because you may be working with strippers or varnishes that you need to protect yourself, or epoxies. These will not filter those. That's just not what they're made for. They're not defective, that's just not what they're for. Another feature to consider with both of these units that they have in common is that this one can take inexpensive sacrificial tear-off protectors. The impact protective lenses are soft. That's why they don't break. They're not brittle, they are soft. They're usually made out of polycarbonate, and you're going to want to protect them from scratches from when you're working on things throwing particles in your face, grinding, woodworking. Fortunately, MicroClimate also has sacrificial covers available, but they're more expensive because they're a more complicated shape, and they're also less convenient to store. These are, I believe, 10 for $50. You can buy replacement lenses. They are, I believe, $80. So the things you need for an industrial PAPR are available. All right, it's time for me to try this on and do some audio tests. So they use AirPods in all of their video recordings and say you can communicate with those. I want to know how it sounds to another person. So I've put a microphone about 30 inches away to give you an idea of whether you can hear me through the impact-resistant lens. But we'll also use the AirPod Pro recording as well, which I'm recording to my phone. So to don it, I have to be careful not to knock off all my microphones. They show a way of holding this shroud open when you put it on. Let's see if I can get it to work. Okay, I've got it on. I need to check the fit from here. Okay. Blower on. And don't forget to seal the shroud. Without a good seal, you may not get good protection. Okay, I have the unit on now. Let me know if you can hear me well. Right now we're listening through this microphone here, the outside microphone. I don't know how well I can be understood through it. Now let's listen to the AirPods Pro. That's what you're hearing right now is the AirPods. They seem like a good solution if you need to make phone calls, but not necessarily helpful if you have to talk to someone in person. And finally, let's go to my microphone. You can get head-worn microphones and speakers for PA use. Another consideration to keep in mind is that if you are at a workplace, you might need to communicate with a walkie-talkie, and I don't know how that's going to sound through this. You can get earpieces and microphones that can go inside, but you will probably need to have a push-to-talk that is outside of this so you can activate it selectively. Now let's see if we can figure out what the sound levels are like inside the unit at my ear. It's going to be a little bit tricky because I'm going to have to stuff this inside the unit. All right, so it looks like the sound level inside is about 70. So for comparison, I want to compare the sound levels for this 3M M200 Versaflo hardtop and see whether you can hear the same, better, or worse, and also whether the AirPods work with this. Okay, I've got the M200 hardtop on with the Versaflo going at low fan levels. I don't know how well it's going to sound here at the remote microphone, which is what I've got turned on right now. And now let's listen to the AirPods. The AirPods are outside of the PAPR unit head top, so I don't know how well they are working right now. That's what we're listening to. And finally, what I sound like inside the PAPR unit, because you may be able to put a microphone inside either for a PA system or for a walkie-talkie, and you want to know whether that's going to sound intelligible or not. Oh, now it's time for the sound levels. So that looks like it's about 60, which is maybe 10 or so decibels quieter than the inside of the Air3. Earlier I said one of the huge advantages of a loose-fitting PAPR is it does not need to be fit tested and it will still work on you. But I'm going to fit test it anyways. I've got an air sampling tube here that will measure how many particles get inside the mask, and another air sampling tube outside to measure the outside particle count, and we'll compare the two, and that will give us the fit factor, which is how much cleaner the mask is inside. So I got a very good score with this. 4,000 times cleaner of sub-micron particles on the inside of it. This is way more effective than a regular mask. Now let's try it with this seal completely loose and see what happens. Well, that was a surprise. Future me here in editing, the surprise was how well it worked even with the neck seal loose, but don't do that. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for the most reliable performance. All right, I didn't have to do the fit test, but it performed really well. Fit test results in the thousands, as you would expect from a good NIOSH approved PAPR. I usually get 200 to 400 in this, and I was getting 4,000 in this. So this is a step up in terms of protection and also in reliability. My fit test results drop in the talking exercise, sometimes below 100 when I'm using this, because as you stress the seal by moving your jaw, you can get unfiltered air in around the seal. That's not an issue for a loose fitting PAPR. It doesn't matter if your jaw is moving. So that is another advantage of this. Let's take a look at some of the details about it. So these filters here actually hold this down. There's a little release tab there. That comes off. And that releases this. You can take it off for cleaning, but I kind of don't want to do that too much because I don't want to mess up installing these filters. And they have a foam seal around them, and I don't want to mess up that foam. And this lip here is really important. When you put this back on, the lip slips underneath this part here, and then this part up here fits over the lip. So you're going to have to push this all the way down to get this part to fit over the lip. And you have to really make sure that this clicks all the way in, and it doesn't always. Make sure that this plastic part is over the lip here. Oops. And you can see I'm already messing up here. This is not seated correctly. I don't have it sealed down here. Okay, so I kind of don't like the way the filters fit in. It's super clever, very space-saving and efficient, but it's futzy. For people who are using these for medical reasons, they may have a hard time fitting these filters back in, so they might need someone to assist them with it. Fortunately, there are videos on how to do that, but I do find it a little bit tricky. The shroud also comes off. It is just elastic. It just pulls right off. That means you need to be careful not to tug it too much while you're wearing it, because when this happens here, even though it's pretty fault tolerant, you'll lose the seal if you take too much of this off. So you don't want to do that. Now, unfortunately, I just put the lens back on, but I forgot to show you something, which is how you test the low flow alarm. This is kind of like testing your smoke alarm. This is a way to block the air where it comes out here with a little thing that they include. There's a little stopper that you can put on this to do that. So let's do that. Okay. Here's the air outlet out here at the top. I'm going to go ahead and turn the unit on. And now to cover it up. And there's your low flow alarm. You know that it's working. A little inconvenient to test because these filters are so futzy to put back on. While we're in here, I'm going to go ahead and remove the shroud. Once we've done that, you can see that there is a harness like you expect in a hard hat, and this rotating knob for adjusting the size. I've never taken the shroud off, so I don't know how easy it's going to be to put back on. Okay, I don't love putting the shroud on. That's very futzy too, more futzy than putting the filters in. Before we put this away, let's take a look at one other thing. This is really important. This is the charging port. It's USB-C, and one of the really cool things about this is that you can charge it while wearing it. The battery is not user replaceable. You can't hot swap it. And some other PAPRs have that problem. If it runs out of charge, you just have to take it off and not work while it's charging. This, you can put a USB battery on it while you're working. But one thing is for certain, if you're working in a dusty environment and you're using this for protection against something you're working on, grinding or something, you don't want metal or other stuff in this tiny little USB-C port. Now, they have thought of that, and their solution is functional, and it will last me about 10 seconds. It's this. You probably can't see it with that camera. Let's take a look here. It is an itty-bitty USB-C port plug, which I will lose immediately. I'm surprised I still have it. Now, USB-C ports are ubiquitous, so you could buy a replacement, but even though that works, I don't think that's a good solution. It should have come with a built-in cover, a more robust cover that you would actually use, rather than one that you're just going to lose immediately. Overall, this is performing very well. It is, it's maintainable, except for one thing. Notice you can't get to the battery. You can't swap the battery out. I don't even know where the battery is. It could be down here. It could be up there. It is warranted for 250 cycles or 1 year, whichever is less. The whole unit is warranted for 2,000 hours of use or 1 year, whichever is less. And that implies that there is an hour meter and a charge cycle meter in here somewhere. So, and I don't know if there will be service available outside of the warranty. So I don't know if you'll be able to get the battery replaced. This is a problem with some other PAPRs. A $1,000 device should not have a battery that can't be replaced or is not user replaceable. There's plenty of space in here. It's not super compact. I think they could have made a user replaceable battery. It probably would have added a little bit of weight, and maybe that's why they didn't do it, but I think they should have done that. All right, so now we're at the concluding part. I do like this unit. I think it's great for a lot of purposes. I love the view out of it. It really does work. This lens really does make it so you can see easily. If you're claustrophobic, this could be the mask for you. It's like you're not wearing a mask except for the weight. Performance is very high, easy to use, one push button start, easy to charge and maintain. You can replace the filters without too much work. I think they're a little futzy, but it is doable. But if you have problems with mobility, you might need to get someone to help you with that. And the shroud, not too bad, but it is a little futzy to put on and off as well. Now, communication. I don't think it's necessarily going to be great. I have not reviewed the tapes yet, so I'm not sure. You can tell me whether the communication is good or not, because I'm going to play back those recorded sounds, and you've probably already seen them. But with the impact-resistant lens, you're not going to get communication that's as good as you do from a soft top like this or other PAPRs that use a thin shield that are not impact resistant. But if you do need impact resistance, that's just going to be a fact of life. You're going to lose some speech intelligibility. The other thing is with other types of soft tops or hard tops, your ears are exposed so you can hear people. You can't hear them as well, and that fan noise was fairly high at 70 decibels or so. So communication is not the strong suit in spite of it being advertised, I think. I like the fact that you can wear AirPods in it, good for telecommunications, but not necessarily for in-person communications. But being a loose-fitting PAPR, you do have the option to put microphones and all sorts of stuff inside to aid with the communication. Now, one thing I said we'd get to later on is price. I've seen some reactions to the price already. People are shocked by the $1,000 price tag because the Air 2 cost $300 and the Air 1 was $200. So how did it get to be so expensive? Well, I don't know, but I believe they've had to do a lot of engineering and upgrades to make it certified and also pay to get it certified. And it's now competing with other certified PAPRs in industry. If you look on Amazon or online, you'll find some one-piece certified PAPRs that are half the price. But they're not NIOSH, and that's not a dig on European certifications. It's that you have to look closely at which European certification they have. And some of the ones on Amazon and elsewhere, they are the lowest level of European certification. The TH1, which allows 10% total inward leakage. That is still protective, but probably a lot less protection than you would expect from a PAPR. You got to look carefully at that. So that's why that is cheaper. And there's another one that is a TH2, which is 2% total inward leakage. It's also cheaper. But the ones that are the TH3 level, which is more comparable to the NIOSH level, those are 1,000 pounds, which is like $1,200. So this really is at the lower end of the pricing for industrial, high-level certified PAPRs. And that doesn't make them inexpensive, it just makes them comparable, and this is at that lower end of the price range. So as hard as that might be to believe, go ahead and take a look online, look at the pricing, and make sure that you check what type of certification the ones that are cheaper have. And make sure that they have the same level of impact protection, because there's one that's cheaper that says you should be wearing eye protection underneath the impact resistant shield. So the pricing is not as steep as you might think. Well, it is as steep as you might think, but it is comparable and on the lower end of that pricing. So it does make it a little harder to justify buying it, but it is a good tool that performs well and has a unique place in the market.